Welcome to Swift Coaches Academy, a podcast dedicated to bringing health and wellness professionals the uncensored truth behind what it really takes to succeed in the health industry with me, your host, Zenia Wood. As an accredited exercise physiologist and business owner for almost a decade, I'm on a mission to transform the lives of ambitious health professionals like you who want more and are ready to take action to create incredible impact in your careers and unlock financial freedom in your business. So join me as I speak candidly with industry leaders about the struggles and successes from within the trenches through thought-provoking conversations.
In this episode, Zenia and I, Swift Operations Manager, speak about how scaling your service to accommodate helping more people with a one-to-many approach starts with an incredible irresistible offer. We dive into what's needed to make an offer irresistible and how and when to execute an offer for a group. Sit back, grab a drink, and strap in. This episode is for all the health biz owners out there who need a help reevaluating their offer to make it a no-brainer for their clients. Don't miss out. Listen to the very end of this episode for all the best bits. Zen, congratulations are in order, aren't they? Tell us all about your exciting news.
Yeah, thank you. So I received an Entrepreneurs Award from my business mentor, and it was for doubling my business within the last 12 months in terms of our Swift Biz Academy. So, or just really the Coaches Academy, totally actually, which is very exciting. And, you know, that for me is showing that we are providing lots of value and giving back and able to help people more. So yeah, very exciting, and obviously lots of hard work behind the scenes, but very grateful to do this and have people support me along the way so that I can help other people.
That is so exciting. Congratulations. That's a true testament to the effort and dedication that you have, the commitment to the cause that you have for Coaches Academy or Swift in general. And I think it's nice to see that you're being recognized for it. So you're not really one to sort of give yourself a pat on the back. You're sort of like a collect the awards and keep running, which is awesome. But also I think sometimes I've noticed that it's probably my job to pull you up and be like, this time, milestone, time to celebrate, which you have also done recently. I think you've made a big effort to do that. And I think it's important because in business, it's very easy for us to get a bit caught up with what the next thing is and not celebrate the wins. So good on you.
Totally. Thank you. Today, what are we talking about today?
I would love to know more about offer creation, what makes an irresistible offer and things like that, which I know that we're working on quite a lot in the behind the scenes at the moment for Swift Coaches. And I think that there is some good differentiations that can be made that I'd love to ask you about between offers and what current people might assume is an offer that they're providing to their clients or what they see out there. So my first question to kick it off is, what is the difference between me having an offer and me providing a service that might be session by session? What is the main difference if I am a health biz owner between those two in my business?
Look, it's definitely a great question because I think the word offer gets thrown around a lot and people just go, oh, it's putting someone on like, you know, a 12 weeks or it's having, but it's so much more than that. So, session by session being they come, they pay at the time of service. If they don't come, they don't pay. You know, I know that from working with literally hundreds of business owners that oftentimes they will have these policies in place of like charging them if they don't give 24 hours notice, but the amount of people who actually follow through with that is almost no one. And it shows a lack of confidence in setting boundaries because our clients tend to become our friends and, you know, it becomes a little bit awkward and things like that. But as I'm sure we've spoken about before, my biggest rule of thumb is that you pay your friends the full price plus 20% because you never want them to go out of business. So if they're your true friends and your clients, then they will absolutely understand that you're running a business, not a side hustle. And they will, if they're clear and you've, you know, laid out the guidelines of working with you, then they should be clear that that is what it is. and making sure that that's not influencing you, right? Because why should we have to always be the ones who forego, you know, we've done all the prep work, we've done everything. Why should we be the ones who then have to suffer because a client decided to cancel without enough notice for us to be able to fill their spot or replace that with something else? So I think some boundary setting there is really important, and it makes it much easier if it's inside an offer than a session by session. I know I speak often about making sure that people are on sort of direct debits or recurring payments, and making sure that's not through a bank transfer and with an offer, or, you know, if you're getting people to pay up front for certain things, then that really negates that issue and it doesn't really become one. So that's firstly a really helpful thing so that we can create consistent recurring revenue. And then the difference between session by session versus an offer, there's quite a lot of things. The offer being we're actually looking at what outcome are we achieving. Session by session is, oh, okay, come and I'll spend 45 minutes with you. And there is absolutely no clear outcome or result from that time that they're spending with you. It's just, oh, yep, you've got a session for 45 minutes, come in. And it's like, okay, but like, what am I getting? Like, what's the achievement? What should I hit after that time period? And oftentimes we can't create incredible change in a session. And so having an offer where we say in the next 12 weeks, in the next year, whatever it is, we are going to get you from A to B. And so by having or allowing a time period rather than session by session to be able to stipulate what the outcome is and getting really clear on that, I think is really what sets an offer apart from session by session. Even if you could talk about goals, however, the commitment in a session by session versus an offer and the clarity are chalk and cheese.
Very true, very true. And I think to speak to maybe from the client's perspective as well, because some people should know that I was a client of Swift First. And I remember, if you're a client of anything, especially to do with a health biz, if the commitment is also an accountability as well. Like if I want to sign up to do this, and you know, you as my coach has gotten ready for my Monday session, and then on Monday morning I'm like, nah, just maybe have a sleep in because it's a bit chilly and it's winter and I'm snugly in my bed. It's also accountability. So as much as it's boundary setting from your side of the table, it's also acting as an accountability for me and holding myself to my own goals and my own wants when potentially during those motivation low moments where I'm like, did I really want it that much? And then, you know, so yeah, I think from both sides, it's actually super important to have the offer versus being on a session. It was something that held me very, very much accountable as a client in multiple different periods of my time, whether I was in rehab or I was in more performance-based. It's something that as a business owner, if you're a bit nervous about it, as a client, I can see many, many values and benefits to that being something that I'll probably be more enticed to rather than, you know, shying away from, which is probably going to lead into my next question. Oh, no, I'll let you go.
I was just going to say on that too, I think absolutely there's still going to be some people who are nervous and are put off by an offer versus a session by session. And you've got to think about like what type of business do you want to create? Do you want to create one where people can tap in and tap out of their commitments and their goals to themselves? Or do you want to be the one known for like, yes, we have commitments and yes, we get fucking epic results. And those things are intrinsically linked. We can't say, or come whenever you want and also get results if you kind of feel like it, because we know that they come with consistency and commitment. And so I think really when I made that first shift from going session by session to an offer and having a commitment period as well, I was like, look, I can't get you results in anything less than this. And if that's what you want, it sounds like you want a quick fix and we're absolutely not the right people for you. And I think you should go elsewhere. And so being really clear on that is a very big telltale sign of like you're not willing to budge on the things that you believe are true to get people to where they want to go. And if they're actually willing and on board for that, they're going to appreciate that you're holding them accountable, because the person who hasn't lost 20 kilos for the last 20 years and has yo-yo dieted, it has flipped and flopped, is of course they're going to say, oh, maybe can I just try one session, because they don't have the consistency yet. And that's absolutely what you have to break to make them consistent so that you can actually create the change.
Couldn't have said it better. And I completely agree from both sides. If I am a business owner, how do I make my offer irresistible? How am I curating potentially what I already have and fixing it up and making it better? Or I'm starting out fresh and I want to have an offer, and how do I make that irresistible to my clients?
Great question. We have a workbook that talks about the 6 keys to irresistible offers. However, I'll very, very briefly go through the headings or the things that you need. But this workbook dives into like, what does that actually mean and how do I achieve that? And what are the examples in health? So very, very quickly, we want a high likelihood of them achieving their dream outcome. So making sure that we know what that is, we're clear on that, and there's a high likelihood. How do we create that? So that's the question for that one. Next thing is we want to reduce their effort. So we want it to make it feel easy for them to achieve it. For example, if you are going to get someone to lose 10 kilos, it's incredibly easy, maybe not financially, but time-wise, it's incredibly easy to go and get surgery and have like a gastric sleeve surgery, and then it's done. Like, it's an instant thing. Yes, there's things you have to do afterwards and keep it off and things like that. But if your result is, for my wedding day, I want to be down 10 kilos, you could have that surgery and be down 10 kilos, right? It's a lot harder to get someone to commit to exercise and doing all these things. So if we know that that is actually we're not going to be able to pull that lever as much, we're not able to do that because it's, we know and we believe as health professionals that exercise is absolutely part of that path and we want them to be sustainable. What else can we do to make it feel like there's less effort on their behalf? Like going to the gym, maybe they can do things at home. Does their session have to be an hour and a half? Things where you can articulate that they have less effort to achieve the same result. The next one is reducing time delay. So can you get their result faster? So if you say, get abs in 5 minutes a day, lose 6 kilos in 6 weeks versus everyone else is doing it in 12 weeks, people want things quicker. And then the last one is a guarantee or risk reversal. And there's lots of different versions of guarantees, which I won't go into. It is all explained in that download that will be in the show notes. But in terms of how can you guarantee the outcome or how can you reverse or reduce the risk, and super easy example most people use is like a satisfaction guarantee. Like if you want 100% happy with this, we'll refund you. Could be just one example of a guarantee, but I think there are better guarantee options than that, especially in health, that really capitalize on helping people get the result, because they don't want to go to something and waste their time. Even if they get their money back, they actually want the result. So how can we make sure that we are committing and promising to that? So a brief overview, those are the 4 things: a guarantee, reducing time delay, less effort, and high likelihood of achieving their dream outcome.
They seem like a good recipe for an irresistible offer, that is for sure. So I would, if I'm listening, I'm definitely downloading that little freebie from the show notes. If I say I'm a health biz owner and I've created this offer, or I'm potentially thinking about creating an irresistible offer, how can you explain the difference between what you've explained, being an irresistible offer, versus some of the things I might have heard, like, a 6-week challenge, and what is the sort of differentiation between those two?
It's a good question. And I think there's absolutely a fair bit of overlap in these. I think a challenge tends to have connotations that are quick, fast, short-lived results. So you're really diving in really aggressively, and then, what happens after the challenge, who really cares, is kind of the, I guess what the feeling is when I see that challenges are happening. I do think they're great for creating habits and things like that. I guess a challenge is typically, 8 weeks to get fitter or something like that. But it's not as clear as an irresistible offer where it's lose 10 kilos in 10 weeks or run your first marathon in the next month or whatever the exact outcome is. And then an offer being more than just one product or service. So a challenge is typically, they do include things like, the training, the nutrition, a weigh-in, maybe there's other things included. The ones that have multiple different things included, I would say is more akin to an offer as opposed to, just doing one thing. It's like, get 30 Instagram followers in 30 days. Like, that would be a challenge, as opposed to like, what are all the other inclusions in that program, as opposed to just do this one thing every day and you'll get 30 followers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. That's pretty clear cut. And I think, for me, the biggest differentiation that I'm hearing is if I sign up to a 6-week challenge, as a client, there's a potential for me to kind of make my own expectations about what the end of that 6 weeks will look like or what my goal will be. Whereas if I'm signing up to, I'm going to lose six kilos in 6 weeks, I know what the goal is, and it's more stringent, and I'm probably able to understand what the expectation is better. And obviously from the other side, it works that way too. But that certainly makes it more clear cut between the two. I wonder if I'm a biz owner though, and I'm currently doing a more session by session model or scenario right now, and I'm listening and I'm thinking, oh, this irresistible offer sounds pretty cool, but I'm sure that there are a few objections you've probably heard from potential mentees that have done this in the past. What are some of your suggestions or suggestions or advice against some of the objections? And I'm wondering, maybe some of them might be, the commitment. I might be a bit afraid that my clients are potentially not so interested in having that commitment-based contract scenario type thing. How do you sort of work around that, or how did you when you changed your model?
Hey coach, are you loving this episode? Because if so, I have an incredible opportunity for you to join me live on the 20th of September for a free masterclass with me to create an offer so irresistible that your clients can't help but throw their credit card at you without any sleazy sales tactics at all. If you are interested in that, you can register in the show notes and I will see you there. Now, back to the episode.
Yeah, great question. So what we did is that, as with every 6 to 12 months, we increase our prices, as you should, based on inflation, worst case, probably a little bit then some, so that you're still making money to be able to help service more people in better and different ways. So what we did is increase the price of our session by session and said, hey, there's a price rise coming up as per the time of year or whatever it is. However, I have created this other offer, and what that means is your price actually won't change. All we need to do is, commit to 12 weeks, and then maybe it's a rolling monthly thing from then on. And what that's going to do for you is it's actually going to secure your spot. So I know you really love Tuesdays at 6 a.m. with me, and I want to make sure that I can keep that spot for you, because if it's session by session and someone gets in before you, or you're away and then someone takes that spot, it becomes really tricky for me as to who kind of gets to keep that time slot. So the great thing for you, and this is what we want to be pitching to our clients, is like, this is not just so that we get more money and that we are benefiting from this. This has to be a win-win. And so for the clients, they get security of, I'm always going to get my time slot that I want. They also get the benefit of, hey, let's say that you are sick 1 week, but we still, have a 12-week span that we really wanted to achieve X result inside of. And if you're sick for a couple of weeks, it's going to be really hard if we only do 10 sessions, because I know that we're probably going to need at least 12 to get this outcome. So instead, what we're going to be able to do is reschedule those appointments so that you can do makeup sessions outside of those times, so that we don't actually fall back, because by week 4 I need you to be here, and by this, and obviously things might come up and we may need to delay or press out. But if I have the ability to still do the same number of sessions with you, or be able to make sure that we're making up for lost time and we're not just foregoing those appointments, then what that means for you is that we can actually guarantee your result, and we're not just crossing our fingers and going, oh well, I guess next session, or like maybe it'll happen in another month. And so I think that that's a real key benefit for the people that are involved. And I guess the cream on top of the cake is really going, well, I have to increase my prices. However, I can keep them the same if we commit to this, so that I can keep that time slot for you, because the recurring revenue of that for a business owner in their business is worth so much more than, someone potentially just, oh, my car insurance came up and now I can't pay for a session, so I'll be back in 3 weeks, maybe. Like, we can't just wait for people to knee jerk and something happens in their life and now, oh my God, even though health was the most important thing in their life, now it's not because I just can't afford it. As opposed to, we've seen inflation happen and we've seen rates of mortgages and things go up, and most people have still not sold their house, right? Like, people will make things work for the things that are important to them. And I think that if we help hold them accountable and we have them committing to their goals, then that reinforces, hey, I made a commitment to myself and to you that I was going to get this result. And even though obstacles are going to come up, I'm still here for you. So I think that that's a huge benefit and a win for both parties. You mentioned, or you asked what other things that people might be nervous about. I think there's a fear that people will leave them and go, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be locked in. And I've actually found the opposite is true. And we found this with our clients as well. Our business mentees, because people already love you. They're already most of the time attending on a very regular basis. And if they see the benefit for them, then it's going to be a win-win. And the people who are flaky or who are like really wanting to be super hands-off, and it's not because, John's out of town every second week, right? Like, that person, you'd make an exception for how many sessions you'd have, and you'd have something slightly different. The rule applies to 95% of people. But in terms of the fear of people who will leave you, they're also probably the people who are costing you the most in terms of like time, effort, energy, frustration already, because they're canceling last minute and you're like, what the fuck? Like, and the 24-hour cancellation, and I just didn't charge them, or I tried to, and now the relationship's gone sour. Like, I've heard it all. So I think you really understand who's in it. And if you absolutely don't have to create an offer. You absolutely can keep going session by session. And the people who I think that works best for are the people who are like surgeons. Like, you don't want to create, you know what I mean? Like, you do the surgery, done. And unless you're also going to be the physio or whoever else afterwards, it's, there are some healthcare places where you don't need someone on recurring appointments or commitments to get their result. However, in allied health, in the fitness industry, I definitely believe that we're not really doing much in one session. And so we're doing our clients a disservice by telling them we're going to promise them the world, but if they don't come back next week, then I don't know. Like, it just kind of leaves things out in the open. And I like to be really clear up front with like, yeah, absolutely, it's a big commitment and we get fucking epic results as a result of it. So if you want to be part of that, I'd love to have you on board. We have one spot left. You can absolutely lock in that 6 a.m. Tuesday. We just need to make sure that we're both on board for the next 12 weeks. And it's gone down really well with all my clients too, by the I think that's what you were sort of alluding to before, like, how has this worked before with people? And every single time they're like, yeah, it was great, like no issues at all. And I'm like, great, because sometimes we build these things up in our head and get anxious about it. We're like, oh, what's going to happen? So it works. I have personally done it. I have gotten all of our business mentees to do it, and they feel so much better financially and like just a little like, like can breathe. And then also their clients, they've got them, working with them consistently, ongoing, they get better results, and it's a win-win for everyone.
There's literally nothing more you can say to that. You've sold it. If I was a biz owner that was worried about, oh, my current session by session is working, do I want to go? I now no longer think that. That's for sure. I guess to finish it off, or to round it out, is there any key benefits to having an offer that you haven't already spoken about that you think are worth mentioning?
I think it really we've definitely talked about the win-win. I think that's huge. We want to make sure that this isn't just benefiting you. It's also got to be benefiting your clients. Otherwise, that's not an irresistible offer. That's I'm taking more than I'm giving. And I think it just helps with your consistency financially in terms of you have the recurring revenue. And even if you're sick, right? Like, you can reschedule that appointment to the next week. Yeah, your week will be a little bit bigger if you're still working, face-to-face with people, or you spend one-on-one time with people. However, oftentimes what happens prior to this offer is someone's sick for a week and they just forego a week worth of income, as opposed to like, you know, the client still wants the session and you'd still like to provide them with the service. You still would also like to pay all your bills in your life, I'm assuming, and make sure that you're feeling confident and secure in that. And you can make better business decisions if you have clarity on that, as opposed to, well, last week was $1,800, but this week I don't really know what's going to happen, because anyone could cancel at any time. And I don't know, someone knee-jerk reactions and they decide that they don't want to do it anymore, and you don't really have as many opportunities to help support them if they just decide not to come back. So it helps you to actually help your people more. I think the cool thing in terms of benefits, maybe like side benefits, are things like, you know, now I've got clients who ask me things about like, where should I invest my money? You know, like, I'm doing these offers, I've created something, I'm financially stable, I've got recurring revenue, like I'd like to do some investing outside of you know, my business. And I think investing in you and your business is absolutely essential. We invest so much time in our technical skills and then forget about the business side, and that used to be me as well. And I realized that my technical skills were pretty good, and I was like wondering why my client caseload wasn't as where I wanted it to be. So it gives you clarity on your numbers, and it really helps people feel confident to make big business decisions and moves, because they have the ability to say, oh, well, in a month's time, we're probably going to bring in this many dollars. And so that means that in 3 months' time, I'm going to have enough to be able to purchase new equipment or like do whatever they need to do to be able to create the life that they want and service the people how they want to service them, as opposed to, well, I have to take on this one session by session because I feel like I can't do anything else. And the inverse is actually true. Even if you have no clients and you are just starting out, I would honestly absolutely recommend an offer. You'll get more people in, they'll be more consistent, and the people who are coming in are going to stay for significantly longer periods of time if your offer is irresistible, it adds that guarantee, and all the other things that we've spoken about.
Fire, absolute fire information. I have thoroughly enjoyed everything that you have said. And I was sitting there kind of thinking about it from a client's point of view of everything you just went over in terms of what it does for a business owner. But on the flip side of that as well is if a client comes to a tough time in their life and they think, I've got to, reduce some costs and whatever else, sometimes, and I think there's probably a well-known thought in the industry that, like sometimes PT sessions are the first things to go when you have to buckle down. But often I have found in my own experience and with a lot of clients I've had in the past and clients we've had with Swift, sometimes actually coming to the session gives that strength, gives that confidence for you to get through those tough times. And because often exercise is actually something that we should be doing regularly to get ourselves through those tough times, whatever is happening in your life, it's ironic that people would be a little bit nervous about potentially bringing in that commitment for both parties, because it's actually the thing that everyone wants. It's just maybe a bit scary in the beginning, but for sure I can see that the benefit on both sides is huge. So thank you very much. Huge golden nuggets that I'm sure everyone that's listening to will take away from this, as well as the fun freebie or the inclusion that we're going to add into the show notes, which has just dynamite effect for your business if you're going to introduce those, because as we all know, anything that Zenia puts out has impact, because we only do those things, direct impact on, I don't know what you would say when you're using anything.
ROI?
It's going to do something.
Maybe?
That's the one. I was like, something. I knew what I meant. I was like,
I'll let her flounder for a while. No. Well, until next time, we will talk to you then. See ya. Before you go, don't forget to register for that live and free business masterclass with me on Wednesday, the 20th of September. We are going to be talking all things creating your very own irresistible offer so that your ideal clients literally cannot say no. I cannot wait to see you there. Don't forget, register in the show notes.
Did you find something valuable in this episode? If so, I'd like to ask a tiny favor. If you have 30 seconds now, I'd love you to follow or share the podcast. That way, we can continue to bring you more real, raw, and uncensored stories from industry leaders. We also love hearing from you and what you loved about every episode. The best way to reach out is to DM me personally on Instagram @SwiftCoachesAcademy. Until next time, and in whatever you do, move swiftly.